What's up, a Cinema Shogun here, and I'm sorry, but does anyone else find it odd that the mainstream media is just now reporting on the fact that Ezra Miller is running a cult? I exposed this months ago, right here on this YouTube channel. You could go back in the videos and you can look. I have been exposing the fact that Ezra Miller was running a cult for months now. Yet the mainstream media and everyone else, they were ignoring it. And that makes me believe that the mainstream media was doing their best to defend Ezra Miller, to try to hide all of the stuff that was going on with Ezra Miller. Because why would they wait so long to pick up on this story? I feel as if the allegations kept piling up, the information kept piling up, and it eventually became so overwhelming that they just had to go ahead and report on it. But I just find it crazy that after all this time, they're just now saying something about this when I exposed this months ago. I laid out so much information about what was going on behind the scenes with Ezra Miller. We exposed the fact that he has a new little girlfriend with kids living with him. There's so much stuff. But I don't know, I find it crazy that I was putting out all of this information a while back and people were acting as if I was just making it up. Because they couldn't fact check it. They couldn't verify it with the mainstream media. So they felt as if I was just making up random details about Ezra Miller. As if I would sit here and just make up random information out of my head in order to get YouTube clicks. I would never, ever do that. I report on factual information. It just so happens that I'm on top of these news stories, and 9 times out of 10, I'm reporting on this stuff before you'll ever hear about it in the mainstream media. So if you've been subscribed to my channel, then you already knew that Ezra Miller was forming a cult months ago. But I don't know, it's just weird that it takes the mainstream media to report on something for people to actually believe that it's true. It's like they worship at the altar of the mainstream media. And no matter who is putting information out there, if they can't fact check it and verify it with the mainstream media, they won't believe it's true. And now these same people who were calling me out, talking down about me, acting as if I was sharing fake information, now they're over here sharing all of this new information that the mainstream media just dropped about Ezra Miller. And they're acting as if this is just new information that no one knew about, when in reality, it was all reported right here on my channel a long time ago. And I'll tell you all right now, the mainstream media is still not putting out the whole story. There's so much more stuff that I already know, that I've already put out here on YouTube, so you might want to go back and watch those videos. All of this new information that's rolling in about the cults, about him traveling America with weapons and him going to war with the FBI and the Klan, all of that has already been covered right here on this channel. It was all already exposed months ago. But as we know, some new articles dropped about Ezra Miller in which they finally revealed the fact that he was running the cult. But another victim stepped forward with some new allegations that I want to go over here with you all. In April 2020, Ezra Miller rented out parts of Iceland's hotel Lagerbaki. Sorry, I cannot say that word. Where the actor took a young woman who was grappling with addiction at the time under their wing. After that, Ezra basically said, "My room is your room. This is now where you're going to stay." And I was like, cool. You see, Ezra Miller always does this. He always preys on vulnerable victims. He goes after women who have been in tough relationships. He goes after young, gender-confused kids who are at odds with their parents. And he likes going after people with addiction problems. Ezra Miller is a hunter, much like a lion. What does a lion do when it hunts? It picks out the weakest prey, and that's who it goes after. So if you have a bunch of zebras running around, a lion will pick out the zebra that's limping, and it will target that zebra. And that's what Ezra Miller does. He doesn't target anyone that's mentally sound. He doesn't go after people who have it all together. He goes after people who are down and out, down on their luck, maybe have some problems of their own, and then he acts as if he's the savior. And he tells this woman, "My home is your home." He's always really nice at first. He showers you with love, and then things change really quickly, like most people who do things like Ezra Miller. But let's go forward. Their relationship over the next 6 days was marked by abuse, the woman alleged. At one moment, they would look me in the eye and be like, I love you, and be this really nice, beautiful person, she said. And in the next moment, she continued, they would tell me that I was effing disgusting. For one, ladies, anyone, men too, if you've known someone for only 6 days, some guy who randomly picks you up on the side of the road and allows you to stay in his hotel room, and he tells you he loves you, get the heck out of there. No one loves you after 6 days. That's way too soon to be expressing that amount of love. And oftentimes, people who do that, they got some skeletons in their closet. They're trying to shower you with this love to cover up all of their inner demons and all their weird stuff that they have going on. So that should have been a red flag right there when Ezra Miller was trying to deeply look in her eyes and tell her that he loves her, because how and why? But then, like she said, he'll snap in a heartbeat. 1 minute it's this, the next minute he just verbally attacks you. And Ezra Miller, he has a tendency of trying to make you feel bad about yourself. So when Ezra Miller goes off on one of these rants, he tries to tear you down. He does this to all of the women in his company. He breaks them down and tears them down and makes them feel like they're just nothing. He calls them ugly, talks about their appearance, like she calls her effing disgusting, all of that stuff, and it breaks you down. And then he tries to build you back up, and then he breaks you down. All the while, that is having a psychological effect on these young women, and it's causing them to kind of bond with Ezra Miller in this sick and twisted way, because Ezra Miller will one moment make them feel so good, and then the next moment just all the way tear them down to where they're really insecure about themselves. And that's how he forms this power over these young girls. There was a lot of psychological trauma, said the woman, adding that Miller would scream at her over things like saying the wrong word in Spanish or her knowledge of yoga. Ezra was like, you don't know anything about yoga, she recalled. The hostile demon just took over. So yeah, this is typical. This is the same type of stuff we keep hearing about Ezra Miller. And this right here, little details like this is why I believe that Ezra Miller is the monster that these people are making him out to be. I don't believe these are false allegations, because they will like pinpoint some really obscure things. And I just don't feel like all of these people from across the world, literally different countries and continents altogether, are all coming together to take down Ezra Miller. They all share similar stories about Ezra Miller just going off the deep end about random things. He attacked someone over a karaoke song. He attacked someone over Monopoly. He gets mad when people talk about certain topics. And like right here, he goes crazy on a woman for talking about yoga. You don't know anything about yoga. Because Ezra views himself as the end-all, be-all of information, and no one around him is allowed to share their opinions or their thoughts. Ezra Miller is fully in control of the situation. And all Ezra wants is for everyone around him to be transfixed on him. And for some reason, he has that effect on a lot of people. Is it because he's a charming guy? Is it because he's easy on the eyes? I'm not so sure what it is about Ezra Miller. When I look at Ezra Miller, he looks like the type of person that I would turn around and walk away from. Like, while all these other people are just enamored by him, like, oh my God, this is so great. I would take one look at Ezra Miller and be like, I don't want nothing to do with this creep weirdo. But for some reason, people are obsessed with him. I think the real reality is he's just a rich dude. The dude played The Flash. And he goes to these random little obscure places. It's not like he's seen in LA doing all of this stuff for the most part. No, he goes to Hawaii, he goes to Iceland, and these people have probably never seen a movie star before, maybe in Hawaii. But you know what I mean? And he goes in there and he uses his power and his money as leverage over these people. So I feel like a lot of the reason why people are so drawn to him is not necessarily something about him personally. It's just the fact that they know he has a lot of money. So these people view him as an out. Most of these women that he preys on, they believe that at some point in time that Ezra Miller was going to take them to Hollywood and they would have this bright career. But in reality, all that happens is they blow Ezra Miller and then they get yelled at. But yeah, none of this really comes as a surprise to most of us, but let's keep going. The woman also said that Miller became fixated on her breeding capabilities, per the report, and would talk to her womb and tell her that she needed to leave her life behind for a better future. She remembered thinking that this was her ticket to Hollywood. Like I just told you all, most of these young girls, they view Ezra Miller as their ticket to Hollywood. And then they wake up one day, they realize that years have passed, they've done nothing with their lives except get screwed by Ezra Miller, both literally and metaphorically speaking. And that's what happens to them. This little girl, this young woman, do you think she ever made it to Hollywood? Have you seen her on any TV shows? No. Now she's just a traumatized woman living over there in Iceland who thought she was going to make it big in Hollywood, but in reality, she just got banged a couple of times by they that's running a cult. And, now she's got this psychological trauma because this dude had this weird effect on her. But Ezra Miller, like I've been telling you all for months now, he displays cult leader-like attributes. It's just, Ezra Miller is like a mixture of other cult leaders and serial killers that we've seen before. Like if you take Charles Manson and the Night Stalker. Have you ever seen the Night Stalker documentary on Netflix? I can't remember his actual name. Is it like Romero's or something? I can't remember. But if you take the Night Stalker and you take Charles Manson and you put them together, you have Ezra Miller. As long as you throw on some women clothes on him, then you got a perfect Ezra Miller. So yeah, this dude has this weird effect on people. And I just don't see why. But hey, people are weird. Let's go forward. Ezra was super manipulative. They kind of had us all under their finger, she said. They were able to twist and pull everything that I thought I knew about the world. Notice how she says us. Notice how this girl said they kind of had us under their finger. What does that tell you all, people? That it wasn't just her involved in this situation. That she, along with other people, were all under Ezra's finger. So I would assume those were other cult members. It was only 6 days, but it honestly felt way longer, she said. I remember feeling like, wow, I don't know how I am going to recover from this. Let's be honest. You will probably never, ever recover from this. Because this is just one of those weird situations. Hell, I've been covering this Ezra Miller story, and I'll never be able to recover from it. There's a lot of disturbing things here. But the most disturbing part about it is seeing how protected he is by Hollywood. Because he, shielded himself with these gender labels, with these sexual labels. He came out as a them, they, and non-binary. So therefore, Hollywood won't do anything about what he's doing. But you know what? I want to look in that a little more. Because I'm starting to feel like there's really something going on here. I can almost guarantee you all, this isn't a fact, speculation. I can almost guarantee you all that Ezra Miller probably has dirt on some people in Hollywood. Ezra Miller looks like the perfect candidate that they would invite over to one of their weird little orgies, probably put some things in his butt, all types of weird stuff. Ezra Miller looks like one of those people. So I would not be surprised if some pretty powerful people within Hollywood have already used Ezra Miller as their little sex toy. And that's why Ezra Miller is not fired from The Flash yet. But, that's the story for another day. That's something that I'll have to look into. But, I'm glad to see a lot of this information finally coming out. It's just kind of bittersweet because I was reporting on all of this stuff for months. I exposed all of this stuff, this cult stuff for months. And now to the general public, it looks like the mainstream media came in to save the day and to tell everyone about this cult and to try to protect the victims of Ezra Miller, when in reality, they've been ignoring it this whole time. It took me, some random guy on YouTube, to expose the fact that Ezra Miller is running a cult. And I have gotten on their bad side. If I show you my inbox on Twitter right now, they are messaging me crazy things 24/7. Ezra Miller's current girlfriend threatened to sue me. There's so much weird stuff that's been going on behind the scenes. And if you haven't already, you really need to go check out my coverage for this story, because I have dived balls deep into the story. Deeper than I've seen anyone else dive into the story. Don't get me wrong. Now you're probably hearing a lot of information from the mainstream media, but this is all information that I've gone over before. But the main takeaway here is the fact that Ezra Miller was fixated on her womb and her breeding capabilities. And he would press his head to her stomach and talk to her womb and all of this weird stuff. But that doesn't surprise me either. You have to understand here, someone like Ezra Miller, they prey on vulnerable people. They want to prey on impressionable people. Who's the most vulnerable, impressionable people on earth? Kids. Ezra Miller, I would assume, probably wants to put as many babies and people as possible because he wants to shape them into his little cult members. Ezra Miller has gone completely off the deep end. Ezra Miller has been referring to himself as the second coming of Christ. He also calls himself all of these other weird names. He's running around with the Flash ring on, like he's really the Flash. And he's convincing little kids that he's going to war with the FBI and the Klan. He's going so far to arm these children and to take them on trips all across America to hunt down Klan members. It has gone completely off the wheels. I don't know what can be done about this situation. There's only so much I can do. I've tried to raise awareness about the situation. I, along with other people who are undercover as we speak, there are people undercover as we speak within Ezra Miller's little circle. I, with the help of them, was able to figure out the location of some of his little victims that he's running around with, like Takata, and I tried to provide that location to her parents. Her parents didn't even respond to me, yet they're talking to the mainstream media. And that's extremely frustrating because I know that the mainstream media is not trying to help these kids. They're not trying to help these parents. Hell, the mainstream media did whatever they could to ignore this story for months. Yet the parents are talking to the mainstream media for help. Yet here I've been trying to help them, but you don't get any response. But it goes to show that people just still feel like the mainstream media is the most credible source of information, when in reality it's the exact opposite. The mainstream media isn't doing anything but reporting on information that independent little journalists and investigators have already found out. I'm not an independent journalist. I'm not an independent investigator. I'm just some dude that was covering the Ezra Miller story. And I myself was able to uncover so much crazy information. But a lot of people don't view that information as valid until the mainstream media steals that information from you and then reports it themselves. But I want to know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. What do you think Ezra Miller is doing here? Is he trying to impregnate a bunch of people so he could raise a new army of little Ezra Miller babies? That sounds absolutely crazy and scary. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all on the next video.